I'm Carla. Sitting here, looking at the court's decision in front of me, I can't help but recall the series of events that led me to this moment. It all started with a family gala that turned into a nightmare. I remember that night clearly. I was at a luxurious hotel, a place I'd paid for. My father, in front of 100 people, called me a beggar. His voice echoed off the marble walls, while my mother sipped her champagne as if nothing was wrong. My sister, Lily, smirked the way she always did when she thought she'd won. Little did they know that every bill, every flower, and every glass in that ballroom was charged to my company, Rosewood Enterprises. I didn't shout. I didn't cry. I just walked out, opened my laptop, and started taking control. Within an hour, the music stopped, the lights dimmed, and their grand celebration collapsed. But how did I get here? Let me take you back. I grew up in a family where I was always the responsible one. My parents, Henry and Eleanor, were more interested in living a lavish lifestyle than handling their finances. I was only 18 when I started filing their taxes, calling insurance companies, and managing their overdue bills while they planned vacations they couldn't afford. Lily, on the other hand, was the charming one. She had a soft voice and a pretty face, and she never had to lift a finger. She always got the praise from our parents. When I started Rosewood Enterprises, my parents thought it was just a cute side business. But 3 years later, when I paid off their mortgage, I suddenly became the financial backbone of the family. They said it was an honor, but it felt like a leash. Every emergency call, every "we just need a little help" tightened it around my neck. My mother's favorite phrase was, "We're family, Carla. Family helps family." I believed her, until one day, she used my card to pay for Lily's engagement ring. When I confronted her, she gave me that slow, pitying smile and said, "You make so much, sweetheart. Why count every dollar?" Betrayal doesn't start with shouting. It starts with tiny exceptions you make for people you love. One by one, those exceptions piled up until I realized I'd built them a kingdom with my money, and they'd crowned me their servant. A few weeks before the banquet, Lily called me. Her voice was as sweet as honey. "Dad wants to do something special, a family celebration, just for us," she said. It sounded like an invitation to belong, but I didn't know I was funding the show. When the first invoices came through my office, I assumed it was a mistake. My assistant asked if we'd started sponsoring private events. The contract said Rosewood Family Gala, the vendor was my father, and the payment source was my business card on file. I should have canceled it then, but some part of me hoped they'd finally thank me. Instead, that night at the gala, I got one sentence, "Get this beggar out." It was then that I realized I'd spent years financing my own humiliation. That night, something inside me snapped. When I got home, I didn't cry or scream. I just sat in the dark, looking at the reflection of the city lights on my window, trying to understand how a family could spend my money and still call me a beggar. The next morning, the noise started. My mother called, saying my father didn't mean it. He was just overwhelmed. Overwhelmed by what? The fact that I existed without owing him an explanation. I didn't answer. Then Lily called. "We can talk about this later, but right now the hotel's saying the payment didn't go through. Could you check that? It wasn't 'how are you?' or 'I'm sorry.' Just fix it." That's when I logged into the business account. There were 6-figure transactions tagged as family events. I traced every signature, every clause, all under my LLC, my logo, and my liability. When I saw my name on the catering contract, I smiled, not out of pride, but out of clarity. I revoked the payments, voided the authorizations, and reversed the flights. By the time they realized what was happening, their family gala had turned into a disaster. The hotel couldn't release rooms, the caterer pulled out, and the DJ refused to show. Then, Mark, Lily's fiancé, showed up at my door, sweating through his dress shirt and red-faced. "Carla, you have to fix this. They're panicking," he said. I leaned against the doorway, arms folded. I didn't break anything, I replied. He blinked. You canceled everything. No, I said quietly. I just stopped paying for what wasn't mine. He looked at me like I was speaking a foreign language. They're your parents, he said. And I'm their bank, I replied. Except this bank just closed its accounts. He threatened lawyers, lawsuits, and public embarrassment. I just smiled. Good. Then we'll need receipts. He realized too late that I had all the evidence. Every transfer, every signature, every message asking for more. He backed away like he'd seen a ghost. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept replaying my father's words in my head until they lost their power. Get this beggar out. The word that once burned now sounded ridiculous because beggars don't fund banquets. The next day, my phone wouldn't stop buzzing. Family members I hadn't heard from in years were calling, saying I'd gone too far. An email from my mother stood out. We didn't mean what we said. Your father's embarrassed. Just pay the venue and let's move on. I stared at it for a minute and replied, you moved on the second you called me a beggar. Then I deleted it and blocked her address. That's when our family's long-time accountant, Oliver, called. His voice was cautious. Carla, I was reviewing your parents' trust documents, and something's off. The beach condo payments aren't coming from their account. Whose are they coming from? I asked. From an LLC tied to your name, Rosewood Enterprises, he said. I almost laughed. They hadn't just humiliated me, they'd built their lifestyle with my corporate funds and filed it under inheritance. Oliver, do me a favor. Run a full audit of every transaction since 2018, I said. He hesitated. Carla, if I do that, it'll get ugly. It's already ugly, I replied. Now, let's make it legal. By the end of the day, I was in my lawyer, Ava's, office. Her office was as minimal, sharp, and cold as her personality. I laid out everything, the cancelled payments, the fraudulent condo, the years of misuse. When I finished, she leaned back in her chair. We can do this two ways, she said. Quietly or properly. Properly, I replied without hesitation. She nodded. Then we'll file. Fraud, misrepresentation, unauthorized use of funds, property reassignment. I looked at the papers she drafted. The legal language was neat and surgical. They'll try to call my bluff, I said. Ava smiled faintly. They already did. Within 48 hours, the documents were served. The same family that once called me for money now received certified letters with my company's seal at the top. That night, my mother's voicemail came through. Her voice was cracking. You're destroying us over one mistake. People will talk, Carla. The church, the neighbors, your father's reputation. Reputation always meant more to them than truth. I saved the message as evidence. By morning, the condo title transfer was confirmed. Their dream of a retirement escape was gone. I sat at my desk, holding the warm document from the printer, and whispered to myself, this isn't revenge. It's reconciliation with reality. And for the first time in years, I felt free. The hearing date came faster than I expected. There were 3 weeks of silence, broken by gossip I wasn't supposed to hear. My cousin texted me screenshots from the family chat I'd been kicked out of years ago. Carla's just being dramatic, one message read. She'll cave before court, another said. She won't risk Dad's reputation. She never does. They had no idea I'd stopped protecting reputations the moment mine was destroyed. On the morning of the hearing, the sky was a pale gray, heavy with rain. I dressed like armor, in a navy suit, with a low bun and a steel watch. In the mirror, I didn't see the daughter they dismissed. I saw a witness, a creditor, the living ledger of every dollar they'd taken. Ava met me outside the courthouse, folders in hand. You ready? She asked. I nodded. Been ready for years. Inside, the air was cold and sterile, humming with fluorescent lights and quiet tension. My parents sat across the aisle. My mother wore pearls, her face tight. My father clutched a hat like it was the last thing holding him upright. Lily scrolled her phone, pretending not to care. The judge called my name first. Ms. Rosewood, you filed for financial restitution and property reassignment. Yes, Your Honor, I said. Ava stood beside me, calm and confident. We'll be showing evidence of misuse of corporate funds, falsified inheritance claims, and trust account manipulation dating back 6 years. As she spoke, she clicked the remote, and the first slide lit up on the screen. Charts, dates, transactions. This is the account history from Rosewood Enterprises, directly linked to the payments for the family gala where Ms. Rosewood was publicly humiliated and expelled, Ava said. The room went silent except for the soft buzz of the projector. Line after line appeared: hotel deposits, catering invoices, luxury flights. Everyone had signed under my name. My father shifted in his seat, his face flushed. We didn't know, he said suddenly. She volunteered those payments. The judge's eyes narrowed. Ava didn't flinch. Your Honor, we also have documentation showing that the Rosewoods claimed ownership of a beach property purchased entirely under my client's company. They declared it as inheritance on their taxes. The next slide showed the condo deed, my logo, and my digital signature. My mother's hand shot to her mouth. Carla, we can talk about this. Ava cut in. No, Mrs. Rosewood. We'll talk about this here on record. For the next 40 minutes, she laid everything bare. Bank transfers labeled urgent family repairs that were actually a kitchen remodel for Lily. College fund withdrawals spent on spa weekends. A wire labeled medical expenses that went straight into my father's vintage car restoration. It wasn't just about money, it was a timeline of entitlement. Finally, the judge turned to me. Miss Rosewood, what outcome are you seeking today? I stood up. My heart was steady, cold, and certain. I'm not seeking punishment, I said. Just truth on paper. Let the record match reality. My father slammed his palm on the table. This is ridiculous. You're destroying your family. I met his eyes. No, Dad. I'm auditing it. He froze. Maybe because the words hit too close to home. The judge raised her hand for silence. The evidence is substantial. The property will remain in Miss Rosewood's name. The misused funds are to be reimbursed to the trust under court supervision. Any further claims against Miss Rosewood's company are void. The gavel hit the block with a sharp, final sound. Across the aisle, my mother whispered something to my father, but he didn't respond. Lily's eyes glistened, not with guilt, but with humiliation. When the court adjourned, Ava leaned over and whispered, "Elegant justice." I exhaled slowly. No headlines, no handcuffs, just balance. As I turned to leave, my father rose from his seat. For the first time, he didn't look like a patriarch. He looked like a man who'd spent his whole life pretending to be one. You've made your point, he said quietly, but you're about to ruin us. Are you proud of that? I paused in the doorway, feeling the weight of all the years I'd spent paying their bills. No, I said. I'm not proud. I'm tired. Tired of funding my own erasure. He opened his mouth to respond, but no words came. Then he placed a folded check on the bench, blank signed. I slid it back. This was never about your money, I said. It was about mine. Outside, the rain had stopped. The courthouse steps glistened in the wet light. I took off my heels and walked barefoot for a few seconds to feel something real beneath me. Ava joined me. You did it, she said. I looked back at the courthouse doors. No, I said softly. I just stopped pretending. For the first time in my life, I wasn't the provider, the savior, the fixer. I was simply Carla Rosewood, the woman who stopped paying for love that never existed. And that silence that followed wasn't empty anymore. It was earned. Weeks passed, and the silence that once felt cruel began to sound like peace. No more late-night calls, no more guilt-inducing texts. My phone stayed still, and for the first time in years, I didn't dread picking it up. The court's decision affected every aspect of their lives. My parents sold their country club memberships. Lily deleted her Instagram for a while after someone commented, "Guess your sister owns that condo now." The gossip spread through their circle, but I didn't care. I was focused on building something new. I sold the condo a month after the ruling. The proceeds went into the Rosewood Foundation, a fund for women putting themselves through college without family support. I wanted the money that once fed their vanity to feed someone's future instead. Sometimes, late at night, I still think about that night in the hotel lobby, the echo of my father's voice, and the way everyone turned away. But the memory doesn't sting anymore. It's just a scene from a movie I've walked out of. One afternoon, I found an envelope slipped under my door. There was no return address. Inside was a photograph from that banquet. Everyone was dressed in silver and navy, glasses raised mid-toast. In the background, blurry but unmistakable, was me mid-turn, leaving the frame. On the back, a note written in Lily's handwriting said, "This was the moment it all fell apart." I stared at it for a long time, then fed it through my shredder, piece by piece. What fell apart wasn't family, it was an illusion. The illusion that love requires sacrifice from only one side. When the last strip of paper disappeared, I felt a sense of relief. Not triumph, not revenge. Just quiet. And in that quiet, I realized I hadn't lost a family. I'd freed myself from financing one. Family isn't supposed to feel like an endless debt. Sometimes, the only way to heal is to stop giving second chances disguised as help. I didn't ruin my family, I just ended their overdraft. And in that space, I've built something better, boundaries, peace, and a future that finally belongs to me. If you've ever had to walk away to protect your sanity, tell me in the comments. Your story might help someone else do the same. And don't forget to hit subscribe, more stories like this are coming.